Kaulig Racing was not as fortunate as Hendrick Motorsports in March, but everything appears to be in place today. The final appeal overturns the points punishment given to Kaulig Racing's number 31 team. The punishment was reduced from 25 points to none. According to the scenario, NASCAR has served justice. So what does the team have to say? Join us as we discover how this occurred. But before that, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button for more whereabouts on NASCAR. When NASCAR eliminated fines for Hendrick Motorsports but not Kaulig Racing, everyone wondered if NASCAR was biased. However, NASCAR appears to have caught up now. The L2 level penalties that were awarded to Kaulig Racing and the number 31 team for making unapproved modifications to a single source part have been the subject of the decision that the final appeals officer has reached. The team will get all of its points back, but it will still have to pay a fine and will be without a crew chief for 4 weeks. On April 18th, the final appeals officer, Bill Mullis, met with both Kaulig Racing and NASCAR to hear the appeal of penalties given on March 15, 2023. The penalties had been handed out earlier that month. Nevertheless, there was a surprising turn of events. In point of fact, NASCAR demanded that Mullis make modifications to the penalty in order to make it consistent with those that were handed down to Hendrick Motorsports following an earlier appeal. Mullis issued the following statement in response to NASCAR's request. In the interest of fairness, NASCAR has requested that I remove the driver-owner race and playoff points from the penalty to Kaulig Racing. According to the rulebook, I've decided to comply with this request. In its opening remarks, NASCAR noted that it is of the opinion that the violations did take place, that the sanctions were warranted, and that the 3-person appeals panel reached the appropriate decision. However, given the Kaulig offense closely paralleled that of Hendrick Motorsports, modified louver at Phoenix Raceway, NASCAR requested that I decide in the same fashion as the 3-person appeals panel that followed the Hendrick Motorsports appeal on March 29th. The knowledge that was shared in the room this morning has produced a situation that is both daunting and extraordinary. In fairness to the team and the governing body, as NASCAR pointed out in its comments, this request is in the best interest of fairness and consistency, and I agree. As a consequence of this judgment, Justin Haley will regain the 100 driver points and the 10 playoff points that he was docked with as a result of the initial punishment. The squad that finished in 31st place will be awarded 100 owner points and 10 points towards the playoffs. Crew Chief Trent Owens will have to serve out his ban of 4 races in addition to paying a fine of $100,000. Following the initial appeal filed by Kaulig Racing, there was a great deal of back and forth, which ultimately resulted in the punishment of 100 points being reduced to only 75 points. The reason for this is that Hendrick Motorsports filed an appeal against the same punishment a week earlier, and as a result, all 4 of its teams were awarded their points. NASCAR wanted to do something about the lack of stability during the 2023 Cup Series season. The sanctioning body felt that the 2 distinct conclusions of the appeals procedure were embarrassing. So it modified the appeals process so that the panel and the final appeals officer could no longer entirely overturn one aspect of the penalty while maintaining another. According to a statement released by NASCAR, NASCAR believes that Kaulig Racing committed the violations documented in the penalty notice. The penalties were appropriate, and the 3-person appeals panel ruled correctly when hearing the Kaulig appeal on April 5th. However, in the interest of treating all competitors fairly, NASCAR made the request to the final appeals officer today that the race and playoff points be removed from the penalty. Both Kaulig and Hendrick Motorsports broke the rules when the same modified part was found during the same race weekend. Fairness and consistency were important to NASCAR, so they asked the FAO to match the final sentence given to Hendrick Motorsports. The recent revisions to the rulebook, which were made in order to honor NASCAR's pledge to the owners regarding the imposition of severe fines in the event that single-source parts are altered, have been met with optimism by the sanctioning body. We're glad that today's appeal was resolved so quickly, and we're grateful to Bill Mullis for his decision. We can now look forward to the activities that will take place at Talladega Superspeedway this weekend. What are your thoughts on NASCAR's way of doing justice? Although a bit late, but it served. Tell us in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button for more updates. Kaulig Racing Team President Chris Rice went on FS1's NASCAR Race Hub to talk about the move, which he called disheartening. He continued, "You know what goes on in your garage, and you know what happens in single-source suppliers, and knowing the rules and different things is really tough nowadays. I sit here and I stand behind my guys. I stand behind everybody at Kaulig Racing. We upheld the rules and we did what we know was legal. So it's been a tough hour or 2. I'm not going to lie to you, but we'll get through this. We're a very strong race team. We're only 2 years into the Cup Series. That's what is big about our race team. We don't give up. We're not going to give up on this. So it's just kind of disheartening." He told the show's hosts that he had been in touch with HMS's Vice Chairman Jeff Gordon and Vice President of Competition Chad Knaus throughout this process. He also went into depth about how these penalties have hurt the young race team, and how it goes far beyond the points, which alone have dropped the number 31 to almost the bottom of the championship standings. He explained, "Everybody talks about the points and all that, but it's all three things, right? We want to make sure that nobody fools with parts. I get it. I understand that as a president, as somebody running a race team. But I was also a crew chief back in the day. Losing Trent Owens, number 31 crew chief, for 4 weeks is pretty tough for us. We're not that deep. We have 3 Xfinity cars that I think at any point in time could use those guys, but we have jobs to do also. We're not as deep as other teams that have been in the business for 20 years or 10 years. We doubled our staff this year, so we are deeper than we were last year. But losing Trent Owens is devastating to Justin Haley. They just started clicking last year. We've had a rough start to the year, but they'll start clicking again. 4 races missing that guy is going to be pretty tough, but 100 points to a race team like us where we sit and race somewhere 15th to 20th, we have some good runs every now and then. But it's pretty devastating also. I think losing our crew chief is pretty big. Our points are pretty big, and the $100,000 fine to a budget, it's also something that's pretty tough." Rice went on to say that he understood why the punishments were so harsh, but that Kaulig has done nothing wrong. Nearly 50 texts from team presidents, crew chiefs, and other people in the sport have been sent to him. Some people say they couldn't believe what happened on Wednesday. He didn't say anything about whether the different punishments for Hendrick and Kaulig are fair or not. He said that it wasn't up to him to decide. But whatever the scenarios be, it seems that NASCAR has now served justice. When NASCAR first handed out the L2 level penalties to the number 31 squad, Haley was immediately demoted to last place in the championship standings. He was in the red in terms of points, and the only way for him to make the playoffs was to come out on top. Haley is in a much stronger position now that the number 31 team has regained its points. With 145 points, he is currently ranked 25th in the standings. He is currently 1 point ahead of AJ Allmendinger, who is also on his squad, and 17 points behind Todd Gilliland. Most crucially, Haley is 61 points behind Chris Buescher, who now holds the final slot that is beyond the cut line for playoffs. The road to the playoffs is less treacherous, but it is still difficult to navigate. It is still necessary for Haley to go ahead of other drivers like Bubba Wallace, who's currently ranked 22nd, Austin Dillon, who's currently ranked 21st, Austin Cindric, 19th, Michael McDowell, 18th, and Daniel Suarez, 17th. In recent years, each of these drivers has demonstrated that they were capable of winning, and they might be able to do so once more to earn one of the open berths in the playoffs. Ty Gibbs, a rookie driver, is now sitting in 20th place in the standings, and he is gaining experience driving a car that has a good chance of winning races on a consistent basis. So that's all we've got for today. We hope you enjoyed it. Tell us what you think of the video in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in the upcoming video.